So let me ask you this, man. So Ferguson Unit, right?
Right.
When you hear the name Ferguson Unit, and it's just your personal opinion, what comes to mind?
Oh shit, man! Hey, Gladiator Farm.
So
Ferguson,
go ahead.
yeah, Ferguson is gonna be the Gladiator. Now check this out. Now Ferguson is this. Ferguson can either be your worst nightmare, or it can be a good place to do time at. Okay, for me, I love Ferguson. I did. I turned it on. Ferguson was, a good. Yeah, it was rock and roll, no doubt about it. You already know what's going on. Everybody had, like fucking adrenaline, testosterone going on, ready to fight, and so it was, you had that. At the same time, there was a balance in there. I mean, if a guy bumped into you, they did say, "Excuse me," you had that, unless of course you were some chump or some punk that didn't give it down,
Yeah.
Punk ain't never gonna get no respect, but guys that carried themselves, and you know how it goes. You carry it all depends how you carry yourself. If you're real about you, even if you went out there and you fought, and you got your ass kicked every day. As long as you fought, you put an effort in. You're going to get some kind of respect. And there was a dude named L.A. with me, man. L.A. was from now he was a blood. He was a little bitty dude. He had a Napoleon complex. Okay. But see, he wasn't a good fighter, all right? I liked L.A. in one way because he would squat. But see, you couldn't turn your back on L.A., man. He was like one of those Joe Pesci types that you would see in Goodfellas. You know what I mean? Because he would get you with anything. You fucked him over, he was dangerous, And one of his, somebody started talking shit about him, and remember, this is the 80s. We didn't have, at that time, there was no Crips in the penitentiary. There was no Bloods. Just a few people that did time. They might be associated with a Blood or whatever. He was a Blood out of LA. So that stuff had not, I don't think that stuff had yet come to Texas. I might be wrong, but I don't think so. But, at any rate, I forgot what happened to him, man, but he went out there with a pencil because he couldn't get a shank. And he stuck this dude in his ear, man, and, and I mean, it dug deeper because he put some force behind it. And then he took a sock and tried to strangle the guy. The guy was trying to get the pencil out of his ear. He was in excruciating pain. And then you had L.A. and he had that sock around your neck. Now he's trying to, he's trying to make your head explode or make the guy. Yeah, you know what I mean? He was that type of dude, a dangerous guy, So a guy like that's going to get his respect, you know what I mean? Because he was definitely a guy that you don't want to fucking turn your back on, And besides that, he was, people might mistake his because he was not. I wouldn't say friendly because that gets the wrong, that's the wrong term to use. But I guess, he had himself respectful, kind of a little bit, well mannered, I guess you would say.
So let me ask you this, man. So, what was it like for you on a everyday basis in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice? What was it like for Lorenzo?
I'll tell you, man, when I first, anytime you're going down, when I first got the Clemens, I had a El Salvadorian celly. That's where, you know what I mean? And he was from El Salvador. He did not like me for whatever reason, okay? I wasn't his blood. He really had a problem with Mexicans, unless you were like from El Salvador or, Honduras, which would be a Catracho, or, Nicaragua. And, but at any rate, he had a problem with me. And so one day I came in, man, and I told him in Spanish. I said, "Hey, man, because here the bottom bunk. Back then, you get the bottom bunk if you were there longer. I had the top bunk. So, I came in there one time. I saw my stuff was messed up on my bed, and I was like, man, this guy's been messing with my stuff. Well, I put a couple things there, and not that I was missing nothing. I just because when you make your bed, you can tell when somebody been fucking with it, And there was a couple things, not there. So I jammed him up. I asked the man, you've been touching my bed, and he jumped up. And when he jumped up, man, we just started going at it. I beat the brakes off him, man, and I tried to drown his face in the toilet, and he had no squad game for me. I just beat the hell out of him. Well, at night, this fool had a shank, and he, and I was getting up to take a leak, and I guess he was waiting for me to go to sleep. I was asleep, and that would be the best time he could have stuck me. So he gets to go, now the thing is, I'm on the top bunk, so when he gets to, when he tried to stab me, he got me in my leg, and then it hurt like a bitch because it was kind of like he had more like it was something like a piece of iron that sharpened down like kind of like a little like a spear type, weapon.
Yeah.
And it fucking hurt. But when your adrenaline's up, you're not feeling that shit. Again, I jumped down. I beat the shit out of him. I was going to stab him with the whole thing, and I should have, you know what I mean? But because I wouldn't have got no more time. Then you kill your celly back then. You're not going to get more time. But
no.
Yeah. So I had a BT walking by doing count, and he saw me, and he's watching this, and he calls somebody else, and he's all right. Hey man, break it up. So I let him up. He's on the, he's laying all over the place, and then I'm bleeding out of my leg where he stuck me, and so I go, I go to the infirmary. He goes to the infirmary. They take this fool out of my, out of the cell, and when I come back, I got me a bottom bunk now, and that's how it goes by. Now I had to worry if the case he had, anybody, any homeboys in there. Now I knew a few people out of Dallas, that I was in the county with, and they're kind of giving you what they call, schooling and stuff like that about what's going on. And, so I kind of got there, and he told me after that, that dude didn't really, he just had a Salvadoran, partner, man. So any shit jumped off, they got you. Now, here's the thing. If you don't, even though I'm not Mexican, Chicano, whatnot, I got into what later on I would get into what you call D-Town. You had your little homeboy cliques like that, So D-Town would have to accept you, all right? So and that would be like they call Tongo your town. Now they got Tongo Blast, you know what I mean? They make some kind of acronym out of it. I forgot what that shit is. But Tongo used to be your town. They would say, hey, ¿qué dónde eres? ¿Qué Tongo eres tú? What town you from? And when I heard Tongo, I didn't like, what the fuck you talking about? Made up word, So, and then like I said, I got somebody that, hey, they already knew that, I fought, whatnot. And they said, you want to, we get the homeboys over here. This is where we sit at, Unfortunately, man, that, there was, D-Town didn't have, there wasn't a lot of us, you know what I mean? You had a lot of West Texas, San Antonio and Houston. And, and during ball games, you know what I mean? If it wasn't for San Antonio and Houston, because they were going for the Cowboys, I wasn't a Cowboy fan. Obviously, I'm from New York, but I would go for it, because, I fell out of, Dallas, So, but there was that rival, man, too, between, Houston and Dallas, too. You know what I mean? They had that going on. And, and like a Monday night, for football, if they didn't play that much, Dallas and Houston, they played in the playoffs. But regular season, they didn't play that much. But, whenever they did, yeah, that's going to spark some shit.
So, let me ask this, man. So, moving from prison to home, right? What are some of the things that you've accomplished since you've been out?
Well, I have to say that when I came, I did 8 years, through at TDC, and I got out shell shock from being in prison. A lot of people don't talk on the shit. They're not going to tell you. Back in the 80s, yeah, that's some fucked up shit. I seen a lot of fucking deaths. I seen a lot of people. I seen homeboys get stuck, and I had there was the wars down there between what do you call the Cuernos, that's the TS, and the MA, and cliques trying to make it in between. So I seen a lot of people get stuck and die, and then in the early I seen people just stabbing each other prior to the gangs doing it. So it does have an effect. When I got out, I couldn't focus on being around people. You know what I mean? Or I let's put it this way. I could focus. I just didn't want to be around people. Okay. When I went to a mall, I would literally, man, be on the back and be on my back against the wall. There was too many. I didn't like nobody walking up behind me. Okay. And I know I got this one job. It was like a telemarketing job, and I'm not telemarketing material. I can't call nobody because I sound like I got an attitude. You know what I mean? I'm just not one of these guys that be really friendly type and try to do this. All right. And I know I got one sale, and this guy behind one of the little the telemarketing management, it came behind me, and he fucking patted me on the back. I jumped off my seat, man, and I hit the guy. You know what I mean? I just literally, then I didn't know what he was doing, man. Nobody just come up there and touch me. You know what I mean? Like that. I wasn't, I couldn't be touched, And when I would go to the club, I would literally tell my brother, man, hey, let me borrow your gun, man. He's like, what the fuck? What are you gonna fucking, John Dillinger? What? Man, what do you mean? Because I was going to a club and I didn't want to. It was hard for me to go to a club, enjoy myself unless I had it, I needed something there. It was just, I couldn't be without nothing. I didn't carry a knife. I carried on like one of those buck knives, but I really didn't feel like, I could really go out and enjoy myself. Restaurants, none of that, man. I mean, there was there was that paranoia within it. It took a long time for that shit to fade, And I guess there's, those veterans that come out of war, from like Vietnam and stuff. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to compare it. There's a big, big difference because you're shooting blood every day. But for a while there, man, I was, just the penitentiary back then, even though in certain particular days there wasn't like that. And I enjoyed certain units, all that shit just kind of like, take a toll on that. I wasn't used to being out, and I know like a lot of guys doing 20 years, 30 years, 8 years is a walk in the park. Well, remember, this is a different era, man. And I can tell you, for example, like 1985, it was like 58 people got killed that year. Okay. And the units, there was only probably about 37,000 people in the system. Okay. And that's a lot of stabbing. We're not even talking about the stabbings. I mean, there was, there was a lot of blood, man. Just, on East Ham, Cofield, Beetle One. But anyway, I get out in '89, and I finally get a job, because I like I said, I had this fucking attitude, and I finally get a job at a print shop, and I was making $4.50 an hour, which in today's today's market now sound like shit, and it wasn't really back then. But it put some money in my pocket, and couldn't really do anything. Then I had to get a second job, to compensate for the lack of income, and and when things started going good for me. But then in 1996, I had an accident that caused the death of my cousin, and then they ended up charging me with manslaughter, intoxication manslaughter. So I get convicted for that. And I wasn't I wasn't trying to, it wasn't even like that. I wasn't even intoxicated. And I say that then and I say it now. When I say it, I'm like, the day before though, I did a bunch of cocaine, and that was true. And I did probably about a gram of cocaine the night before the accident. But they weren't charging me for that. They were charging me for having alcohol in my system, a 0.14, which was bullshit. And then my cousin, his blood didn't have anything in there. You know what I mean? So I know what they done. Long story short, but they enhanced me. I get 25 years, and it took me about 15 years before I reversed that, and that was in 2015. I became a paralegal in Texas, and in the joint. And so when I got out, it took me a little bit. I worked construction jobs in a legal department, and then I ended up getting a job for a firm, Jason Jacoby, became his paralegal and investigator. And it's right up my alley. If you can do something that you love, you're not working. And I love doing the job. And there is a lot of paperwork. There is a lot of and too, and there's a lot of time you have to do to investigate, an offense and make sure your client gets the best representation. And I can say this too because like on YouTube, like somebody we represent doesn't like our services, you'll hear the backlash, believe me. But you know what I mean? They're like, the motherfuckers fucked me up. I got 40 years, or you got my brother 40 years. But here's the deal, man. All our clients, man, are content, man. You know what I mean? We either do what we say. We either beat the case, or we get we get a sentence they can deal with.
So, Lorenzo, man, like I say, man, it was an honor to have you on, man. You will be back, man. And I appreciate you for bringing your knowledge to the screen, man. But before you go, man, I want to ask you this here, man, because you watched the Ferguson Chronicle a few times, man. You gave me your spiel on it. And that's the reason why you are here telling your story, right? Mm-hmm. But for the people, what interests you in the Ferguson Chronicle?
Well, that's a good question. I love YouTube. I don't watch the news anymore, right? I get all my news from YouTube. Right? I don't care, where it's Fox News, CNN, MSNBC. I don't give a damn. I just try to make the balance. All the news is bullshit, no matter what you get it from. But then I try to get, I watch it and try to weed out where the truth lies at, So I catch these. I first saw it. Dr. Larry, okay? And I thought, damn, man, I got to know this dude. Now watch this guy, okay? And so there was a couple more. Tim Snow had one, and I watched one of his videos, you know what I mean? And just to check it out. And then I saw yours, I saw Ferguson Chronicles, and so, I want to check it out because I was on Ferguson, and, and you had a one time, I guess you had a TDC guard down there giving him, there was, I guess he was guard when you were down there, and he seemed like, and he seemed like a square dude, you know what I mean? And then a couple other individuals you had on there, and I listened to. I like what you're doing. This is not like, we're not glamorizing the shit. You know what I mean? We're not in there trying to say, hey, this is, let's go back to prison, and this is where it's about. See, prison ain't shit, man. Especially right now. I mean, it's their parole system sucks. Back in the time I did it, I had a revolving door, man. Recidivism, man, was the strongest, man. Because I watch people go out and come back, and 2 or 3 times. Okay, but the Ferguson Chronicles with you, you're not into that. You're actually giving, something that I think is newsworthy. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that because I'm on here and I'm not, one thing I'll do, I want to be honest when I with what I say, and make sure that it's all factual. And I think that's what all your guests come up here with, man. Their own way of doing time. They're not trying to hype it up to make themselves look like some badass, or hey, this is what's doing time. This is how it is doing time. How it was back in the day. Okay, and one thing about it is how you guys are staying out. You know what I mean? And you can bring guys back like yesterday. You can talk about the time you guys did. You had a congregation with dudes that that you did time with, and I think that's great, because you know what, you guys got this common theme. You're out of prison, and that's what it's about: staying out, doing the right thing.
Unfortunately, man, we ran out of time, man, but I'm gonna do like I do with everybody else that come on the Ferguson Chronicle, man. Before we close, I always like the individual that's on the screen to close the show on his note, man, and give his spiel on what it takes for a man or a woman to stay out of prison, man.
That's a good question. First off, you have to if you're a drug addict, man, you have to find that in you, man, to get out the drugs, okay? You have to want to stay out, okay? You're going to have to stay away from them individuals, man, them homeboys that got you caught up in the first place. You have to stay away from those individuals, okay? Align yourself with a better class of friends, okay? Go positive. Keep a job, steady work is the key from going back in, and get yourself a good woman, okay? Or get yourself a good man. If you get a woman that's, that likes to drink, do dope or something, you're going to go right down that track again. So get yourself a good woman, or if you're a woman, get yourself a good man that's going to, that's going to take you to, a better avenue, or it's going to take you down a better avenue. And that's the key. Remember, you have to want it. If you don't want it, if you don't feel it, it ain't going to happen.
Once again, real life people, real life stories. You can only get that here at the Ferguson Chronicle, man, where nothing is ever scripted, man. And we keep it 110 all the way across the board. And today is no different, man. I appreciate you for coming on the show, giving your spiel, man. And keep doing what you're doing, man, because it's people that need you.
I appreciate you, Hollywood. I appreciate you having me on here, bro.
Until next time, salute. Once again, real life people, real life stories. You can only get that here at the Ferguson Chronicle, man, where we keep it nothing but 110 all the way across the board, man. It's choices in life that we have. Make the right choice. Make the right choice. And it's one thing never ever to do is judge the man, because you just might miss the message. Until next time, salute.